Prescription, you can write your name at the top. It's
I
not
got
a real
pens.
prescription, but this is a basic formula for staying healthy. So you should start this when you're little and continue till you get older.
Too late for us.
Are you kidding me?
It's never too late.
It's never too late.
I'm just getting started on my next career, so we're all moving together. You write your name at the top, the birth, date of birth, and this is like a reminder to you. So you keep it home so you remember everything. Did you get your prescription? Oh. No, here. Actually, I think we signed the bottom of it too. Was there one more person out there? You get a personalized prescription.
Me, unfortunately, I can't.
Find a seat, one here, one back there, one next to Charlie.
You can have it. Anybody else pen? Excuse me.
Oh, can you give her her personal prescription? We get a personal prescription.
Here.
Wait, hold on. You have to sign my
So,
pen too.
the first thing is nutrition. Everybody knows how important nutrition is, right? Putting the right fuel in the system, like your car, you put the right fuel in. So there's very specific things you should eat and not eat. And Nate, if you go get my books from my office, please, at
Sure.
the beginning.
Where do I sign?
And then the next part says digestion. Digestion really is how you digest the food, your intestines, your bowel function, which is incredibly important. Inside our intestines are bacteria, and you get bad bacteria, it's going to make you sick. So you have to stay healthy, and it's like this balancing act. That's what the story of life is, it's this balancing act. So you have to have enough of good bacteria to counteract the bad bacteria. The bad bacteria are like the bad guys that move into your neighborhood. So you have to keep things under control. The next thing is exercise, everyday exercise. It just means walking every day, light weights. And next to that, you should write in stretching. Before you exercise, you should stretch mildly every day, gentle stretching. The next thing is really today's discussion is stress control, relaxation, and sleep. So stress control is not to overreact to situations, relaxation is how to keep calm, and sleep is critically important. You know, all human functions, these are basic human functions. People stop, they don't really get adequate sleep. And I make that an important part of my medical history. Do you sleep well? Most people don't sleep well. I would say 8 out of 10 are not getting adequate sleep. So we'll talk about that later. Avoiding toxins in the environment. That's pesticides, bad chemicals. Does anybody here live in New Jersey? This is one of the most toxic places. It's in the ground, the air, the food, the water. It's in your home. It's everywhere. It makes you sick slowly. You don't realize it. It wears you down. And then, of course, all these chemicals in the environment. And the last thing is general preventative medicine. You have to find a very good doctor, someone who will listen to you, someone who cares about you, someone who practices good medicine. Once you find a doctor you can work with, then you'll get the adequate care. Now, it's not just a doctor. You should see a dentist. You should see the eye doctor, the skin doctor. So if you have a very good medical doctor, he'll refer you to the best people. So you have to have somebody you could trust. So I hope you all find a doctor that you can trust.
We'll let you know.
And last, my doctor. Oh, very good, Harry. Thank you. You get an A. The lastly, it says avoid injury and destructive. What's injury? Well, you know, when we get older, you could fall. I hurt my hip, so you have to be careful with that. And destructive behaviors, that's smoking, alcohol, drugs, all these dangerous things people do. But that also includes gambling, spending too much time watching the internet and television. These are destructive behaviors, actually. They become addictive. So that's really something. So with these various little points here, I think you could really solve most of America's medical problems. What do you think the biggest problem in America is? We used to play this game in high school. What is the teacher thinking? To me, the single biggest problem in America is like the whole weight problem. The obesity thing, people eat the wrong food. So that's where you really should start. So when you watch television, probably half the commercials are for food. The other, Corey, how you doing? Oh, who's this lovely young lady? Your date? Anne Marie.
Thank you.
Oh, find a seat. What was I talking about? Oh, most of the commercials are for food. The other half are for vacations. So that's what America likes to do. Eat and be entertained.
What's wrong with that? That's true.
But they make it a profession and it becomes a problem. No, there's seats here. You can sit here. Whatever you like. I digress.
Thank you.
So that's basically everybody's prescription. You get a card that you take home with you so that you learn something today. You could take notes if you like, but I put everything down and we kind of condensed it, so to speak, in our stress control card. Okay? So with these two things, I think these are the basic instructions you need to get healthy. If we could somehow get these down to Washington, D.C., we can get started on the right track. We don't need health insurance, we need a health care policy for everyone, and it should start at the top.
Doc,
So-
could I ask you a question?
Yes,
The wife and I talk about this all the time. When we were kids, we would have a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
right,
No problem.
right,
Today, half of the kids have a problem.
right.
Why?
I think everybody's sensitive, I think it's chemicals in the environment, I think the food is different. Nobody has an answer, because you'd have to take 50 people and give them this food, and 50 people and give them placebo. How could you prove it? You can't. I think it's just toxins in the environment. You can't prove these things. There's too many chemicals, too many things going on. People are too sensitive in general. I digress. When I started college, I had a friend, Steven, and Steven was from Brooklyn. He was a sharp kid, and he told me, you know, you have to learn to calm down, otherwise you're not going to get through this. So he said, go take a class in transcendental meditation. I did. The problem was, I really had no idea what I was doing. You go into class, the guy gives you a word, you sit in a chair, you repeat the mantra. I didn't know why I was doing it, what I was doing, so it really wasn't productive. It's years later that I really figured out why you do these things, how it works. And that's really what today's program is, really teaching you how to relax. It's a skill you should learn, because not everybody is relaxed. So you have to learn actually how to relax, and that's what we're going to teach you today. So for me, that really wasn't very helpful. I didn't know why, they didn't explain it. I think it was just a business. So you went and paid your thing, he gave you a little word, and then they kicked you out. It was, to me, it wasn't productive. So today, I want this class to be productive, and hopefully, if we get this thing going, we can take it on the road. Would you all like to go on a road trip?
Yes.
We'll teach all of America. So, what is stress? This is when you start high school, they always start with a definition. What is stress by definition? Stress is anything that could harm you, or anything that can threaten you. So in ancient times, like an animal would chase you, you'd run out of food, that's a stress. You didn't have enough water, you were cold. These were the ancient stresses that we had. We don't have those stresses anymore. We all have nice homes, we have plenty of food, we don't have to worry about being protected, we have a police department, so those stresses are really gone. The stresses of modern life are what? I'm sorry, what did you say?
Everything.
Bills.
That's what it is, it's
Finance.
financial. That's really what the stress is. So really, they've got, the system has us by a throat. So that's what the biggest problem is now. You can't possibly relax, you can't live an independent life. In ancient times, you were a hunter, you knew how to kill animals. Now, nobody has a job they're in control of, they're told what to do, and they're coming and they're taking more and more money, especially in New Jersey. So it becomes an extremely stressful thing for an individual, because you lose your independence. So that's what modern stress is. The other thing about modern stress is there's been a loss of what we call traditional values. Does anybody understand what that means?
Yeah.
See, we're all shaking there. It's a very intelligent audience. That means when you grew up, you had mommy, you had daddy, you went out and played outside, you had dinner, you did a little homework. It was all very simplistic. That doesn't exist anymore. So it's a complicated world for children. They're more stressed, and I think there's more toxins in the children now, starting from even before they're born. They're exposed to it through their mother, and this is affecting their development. The other thing is that people's lives are far too complicated. I mean, we get phone bills now, between the phone and the computer, sometimes $500, $600, $700 a month. I mean, we had a phone bill once for $90, and that was the biggest deal in the world. I never heard the end of it from my father. So, it's out of control now, our expenses, and it's everything. It's taxes, it's your phone. So this is putting people, you can't live normally, and you feel you have no control over your life. And I think this is really what our problem is. The other thing about it is we have patterns of responding to stress. These may start when you're young. So if you're used to always panicking and getting upset about things, it becomes a pattern that you do for the rest of your life, and you can't break it. Some people are more emotional than others. It's just the way that you were born. It may be your experience in life. They call it post-traumatic stress disorder. But I think this society is causing post-traumatic stress in everybody. And as I said, you develop these lifelong patterns, and they're very hard to stop. That's what a habit is. It's hard to change, because you're really talking about changing the way your brain functions. So the real problem in our society is this constant underlying stress. As we said, most of it's financial. It never goes away. You never stop getting bills. What does stress do? Is it good for you? Well, it's good in the sense that it gets you motivated to do things, but it's bad in the sense when it's constant and it wears you down. Can it lead to any medical problems, stress, or make problems worse? Yes. It's a very smart audience, very bright. It can affect your heart and cause a heart attack. It can cause you to have a stroke. It could make cancer, exacerbate cancer. It affects autoimmune disease, arthritis, Alzheimer's disease. All these things are related to stress. Can you measure stress in a blood test? Not really. But you ask somebody, do you have stress? And I asked them this in my history, because yes, they will tell you yes. Maybe 1 out of 10 says, no, I don't have any stress. So the question is, what can we do about it? Can you change the world?
No.
You can't. The only thing you can do is fix yourself. Can you learn these techniques to relax?
Yes.
I believe so. Well, I'm an example of it. I've learned to do this. You could actually ask my wife. She's in the kitchen right now. So I say yes, you could understand this. You could actually change the way your brain works. You could learn to control it, and it just takes time and practice. You know, it's like if you're going to become a track star. You can't just go out and run the race. You have to practice. And that's what these techniques do. You have to practice them. You have to practice them every day. You can't do it once and expect to have tremendous results. It's not going to work. It has to become part of your brain. You actually have to train that part of your brain that causes you to relax. So our goal here really is to create and maintain a calm brain and a calm nervous system. There's something interesting about the human body. There's a little electric charges that run throughout our system. It's how our brain works, and how the nerves work, how the heart works. And in the heart, if the electrical activity of the heart goes haywire, then you get an abnormal heart rhythm and you'll die. So there's systems so everything's very organized. The goal here is to have these organized electrical systems functioning in your brain and in your nervous system. The nerves are like wires. They send signals to the body what to do. You want it in an organized fashion. Now, if the brain activity, the electrical activity goes haywire, you could actually have a seizure, and it's completely out of control. So that's not what you want. You want a controlled system, and we have to learn to do that, and that's what we're going to talk about today. So we want a calm brain that will function better. If your brain functions better, you could develop solutions to complicated problems. So if this ancient man, you're out in the woods, and you have to survive at night, you have to make a fire, you have to think about how you're going to do things. You have to learn these things, otherwise you won't survive. And the whole thing really here is survival. The other thing, there's a nice image you can have in your head, and I saw this in a magazine. It was a psychology magazine. It was some thread, and they had one pile of thread that was all twisted up in a bundle, and it was all mixed up in knots, and the other one was neatly arranged on a spool. The one on the spool is where we want to head. It's organized, it's threaded properly, and it's functioning properly. The one that's in a big mess, it's full of knots. You'll never get this. It won't function properly. So you don't want your head to look like that. You want it to be organized. Or if it's like an electric panel, you want all the wires to come in neatly, everything to function, all the circuit breakers. That's how we want our brain to function. It is possible to do this. And how do you do this? You know, they hear of a Tibetan monk. They could sit and meditate all day. They could turn their heart rate down to 20. So that means you can control these systems, what we call the autonomic nervous system. You don't tell your heart how fast to go. There's systems tell it. But you can actually learn to control this, and you can learn to control your body temperature, also learn to control your brain activity, and that's what the goal is. Now, when you get stressed, what happens to your body? Let's say a dog is chasing you. What would happen? Well, you'd start running. The first thing, you don't want to fight with a wild dog. You'd start running. So your blood pressure goes up, your heart rate goes up, the blood vessels to your muscles dilate, to your heart they dilate, you get increased oxygen levels, everything to get away from the animal. The other thing that happens is your body starts producing a lot of sugar because you need the sugar for your brain to function, your heart to function, and your muscles so you can get away. We call that the stress response. Specific chemicals are released. You get nervous, you see the animal, your body releases adrenaline, it releases cortisol, it releases norepinephrine. Very specific chemicals are released. This is how you function. When the stress is over, the chemicals go down. If you're living in a constant level of stress, those chemicals never go away, and that's when they start to do damage. It's like if you were driving in your car at 120 miles an hour at all times. The engine will overheat, the shocks will go, the tires, the suspension, everything would break on the vehicle. You don't want that constant state of stress. So how do we learn to control this? That's what we're talking about today. There's a system in our body called the sympathetic nervous system and the parasympathetic. This controls all these functions we never think about. They have to be in balance. When we're all stressed out, they're not in balance. There's one system to relax you and one to excite you. So you have to have a balance in it. When you're constantly stressed, this system is out of control. That's what we have, an out of control system, and it makes you sick. Sets off all these diseases we talked about. So when we talk about these, it's always interesting in science, you talk about these systems, this system and that system. This is not like parts, you can go replace them like a water pump or brake system. This is a very complicated, integrated system in our brains, our nervous system. It involves these hormones that are made in the body. You can't just replace these. These are extremely complicated. You can never replicate this in a machine. So you can't fix these parts, but you can learn to control them. And that's what we're here to talk about. I was watching a program, it was about these planes in Vietnam, the fighter pilots, So they were the American planes, there were like 25 of each of them, and they flew into each other, and this is over a 5-mile space, in the airspace, over the ground. And they called this a furball. It's completely chaotic. The good guys, the bad guys, they're flying past each other. You look at this and say, how can anybody survive? The guy that survives focuses energy on one plane ahead of him. He shoots him down, then he goes to the next one. It's the most chaotic, dangerous, scary thing you could ever be. But some people can learn to do this. They can focus their energies. It's a very specific skill. You don't need that in normal life, but you can learn from that. If you were a soldier on the first day of battle, listen to the experienced soldiers. Keep your head down, keep your ammo dry, and you'll survive the first day, then you learn. And that's what this whole thing is to do. Because we're on the constant battlefield. We're on a minefield. The good guys are shooting at us, the bad guys are shooting at us, they're dropping bombs on us. That's the average person's life. If you didn't have to work, you didn't have to do anything, you'd take a month off, you'd eat properly, you'd relax, you'd rest, but nobody has a life like this anymore. So we have to learn to live in this environment. What's this environment like for us? Imagine you're in a subway car. It's crowded, it's loud, the lights are on, it's dirty, it smells, it's uncomfortable. It's the worst environment you could ever be in, right? There are some people who sleep in the subway. How do they learn to do that? They have something about them. You get used to it. So we have to learn to deal with it. Either that or move out of the state of New Jersey. Or move to Australia. So, as I said, a panic brain can't come up with solutions. We have to get rid of the panic brain. So we learn to control ourselves. These are simple techniques we're going to talk about, but they're difficult to implement in regular life and to consistently do it. And that's what the problem is, because I'm telling everybody get a new job here. And that job is to take care of yourself. It takes time, it takes practice, and you have to stay at it. You can't get frustrated. Do it once. Oh, it didn't help me. You have to keep doing it. You have to believe in it, really. And once you believe in something, then it can become a reality. And you have to practice, you have to put the time in. So, our real goal here is learn to control our brain and create a calm environment. So the first thing I do, and I do this every night, and I developed my own system. I went to a yoga class, I've listened, and you have to put something together for yourself. Like, I could show everybody here the map, how to get healthy. Each person has to find the right path that works for them. It has to be something you're comfortable doing. Not everybody on the highway drives at the same speed. Everybody's driving at different speeds, going in different directions, the right lane, the left lane, the middle lane. You have to learn to survive in this thing. You have to figure out what works best for you. I'll tell you to eat certain food, you say, I can't eat that. So you develop something for yourself. And that's what this whole point is. This is an individual thing. You have to work at this until you get comfortable with it and then you figure out what works for you. Since this is our first class, this is just an introductory class. But each week we'll have another class and everybody can come and tell how they did. Would you like that?
Yes.
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
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 Let's take this on the road. We're in the medical entertainment business.
Got the ice rink next door.
Okay. So you do I found three specific things are very important to do. The first thing to do is to relax your muscles. Muscles contract, they're tight all the time. Even when you go to sleep, you gotta wake up in the morning and stretch. Do you ever see a cat, they stretch out? This is not a complicated thing. You should learn to do this. There's very simple techniques of doing stretching this way, stretching that way, stretching forward. We'll talk about that in the future. But very mild stretching. As we're all older, you don't want to overstretch. You can injure yourself. I went to yoga class and they came out with all aches and pains at the end of the day. Everybody in the class was younger than me. I'm trying to compete, so no. You have to figure out what works for you. So you have to do this mild stretching and relaxing. You do this before you do your sitting and relaxing. The second thing is deep controlled breathing. You know when women get pregnant, tell them, oh, focus, take a deep breath while you're delivering. It's the most panic moment, stressful moment, tell them deep breath. Why do they say that? Because the deep breathing brings more oxygen to you. It also activates this nerve in your brain that calms the body down. So there's a principle behind it, a medical principle. Thousands of years ago, some guy sat and figured this whole thing out. If I breathe slowly and deeply and I'm in a quiet place, I can actually calm myself down. Somebody figured this thing out. They figured out how to control themselves. You do this through your breathing. You'll slow your heart rate down. You'll calm the body down. You increase your oxygen level. Eventually, your brain will calm down, too. So there's something here. This is not nonsense. This has been going on for thousands of years. How do you know this is okay? Even Dr. Oz says it's okay.
It's okay.
And I think I started out with a larger studio audience than he did. Also, the National Institute of Health recommends it as a prevention for dementia. So there's something to it. Everybody is saying this thing. The problem with America is this. They turn this into this big business. My nephew, as I was talking to him, he's a younger kid. He said, well, I got this app on my phone. They teach you how to meditate. I said, that's not really how it works. And that's actually the opposite thing you do, playing with your phone. You should learn to do this on your own. And I said, I'll talk to you when you're ready. He hasn't called me since then.
They don't listen.
You learn, well, this is the thing, we listen. We listen to our parents.
Yeah.
And the last thing you do is you sit quietly and you think of something that's calm. You're a child, you're youth, you're happy when you're youth, mommy and daddy are there. Generally speaking, it's a calm environment. You think about being at the beach. You think about being at the mountain. So while you're focusing on the calm thought, you're not thinking of the 50 things you have to do. Most of what we think about is a waste of time. The things we worry about, in 98% of the cases, are never going to happen. It's good to prepare yourself and think about them, but if you stress yourself out, you're wasting brain activity. You're actually killing brain cells. If you're calm and you're in a relaxed position, when things happen, you can deal with it in a better manner. So you have your stress system over control. So you're not constantly overreacting. I don't want to get anybody upset here, but who reacts more strongly to emotional things, men or women?
Women.
Why do women react more?
The nurturing.
There's a reason for it. Because with men, they don't react to things. So if a baby were crying, oh, here, have something to eat, pat him on the head,
Give
is
them
that
to the
it?
wife.
You want some water? I don't know anything else. I can't help you anymore, so stop crying. That's what men know how to do. A mother would nurture the baby, talk to him. Maybe he stepped on a pin or a needle, something's hurting him, check the bones. They would find out what's wrong. We haven't had enough practice in it. We've been busy hunting. So this is basically a new job I'm giving everybody. These are simple techniques. You have to practice them. You cannot master this in one day. So do your stretching first. Do the slow, rhythmic breathing. And then you go put yourself in this place where you're just thinking about calm things. While you're thinking about the calm things, you're not thinking about going to the grocery store, picking up the dry cleaning, getting the oil change. You don't interact with these thoughts. You actually force yourself not to interact with those things. You shut your phone off, you're in a quiet place, it's dark, nobody bothers you, there's no pets there. You put yourself in a calm place. And you do this twice a day. You do it in the morning, because in the morning, that's when your stress hormones go up. And it's a natural process, because you have to get things done in the morning. So your stress hormones start to go up, so you keep them under control. You do this at night, because you've been stressed all day, to calm down. You have to get away from everybody. I say save 10% of your energy for yourself, and you'll live 20% longer. It's a matter of learning to shut down. Everybody has too much to do. We never heard such a thing growing up that everybody had to work all the time. But now who's ever working, mother works, father works. Being a mother is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job. You go shopping, you have to buy the food, clean the food, wash the food, chop the food, prepare the food, eat the food. This is a long process. Nobody wants to do this, so we're eating the wrong foods.
Holidays. Makes you more nervous.
So as I say, we want to organize this whole nervous system, this electrical system. We want it functioning. Those are the things to do. As I said, you do this 2 times a day. For the first time you do this, just sit. You're going to be thinking about things. You're not going to be trouble getting up. You're going to be forcing yourself. Your brain is bouncing around. You have to practice this. So maybe do it for 3 minutes. Set your watch, do it for 3 minutes. I actually have a stopwatch. I watch this. So if you get good at this, you could actually do this during the day. You could be in a meditative phase during the day. You just slow down for a second, shut down, take a deep breath. Did you ever hear the old saying that if you get upset, just stop for a minute and take a deep breath? That was to activate this vagus nerve and calm yourself down. Take a minute, they tell you don't react, just take a minute. And you're allowing yourself to get control. So that's really what you'll have to do until eventually that becomes the habit, that becomes the way your brain works. If you're constantly in the habit of overreacting, you have to shut that system down. Is it possible? Not only is it possible, I think it's extremely necessary. Where are you going with this? You burn yourself out, you kill brain cells. Who's going to take care of us when we get older? So I think it's critical you take care of your own health. And you have to do this yourself. You're designed to fix everything yourself. Every individual is able to do this. To go to the hospital, to take medications for these things, it actually sets off other problems, and it never really cures the original problem. You have to go back and cure the original problem. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Oh, everybody knows Nelson.
I know.
Hi, Nelson.
He's my alter ego. So as I say, find a quiet place, a room. You don't have to sit on the floor folded up like a pretzel and say the word Om. It's not necessary. This is not a religion. This is not a cult. You don't have to wear special clothes. But you learn to calm yourself down. You have to make this part of your everyday life. Did anybody know what that word, where it came from, the word Om? A yoga guy told me this, and he said if there was no noise in the universe, everything was quiet, the only sound there would be is the earth going around on its axis, making a slow grinding sound. I don't know if that's true, but when I thought about it, that's a very calming effect. So that's where that actually came from. But not everything works for every person. You have to figure out what is going to work for you. These are the three basic principles. Do your stretching, do your breathing slowly, close your eyes, and think of these pleasant things. These are three simple things I think will help everybody. You also, and this is very Eastern philosophy, you have to accept the uncertainty of life. You have to learn to live with fear and not be upset with it. Nobody has any guarantees in their life. This is how the insurance companies work. They guarantee you something. There is no such thing as a guarantee. So they really take advantage of our fears, our weaknesses. There's uncertainty in life. You have to learn to live with these things. We're not going to live forever. That's another tremendous fear we have. You have to learn to accept these things. That's a natural process of life. Once you get comfortable with these things, you don't get upset, then you can deal with them better. You just accept these things. Life's going to have its ups and downs too, and you have to realize this. So you accept that. So these are the things you learn to accept. You get comfortable with them, with this uncertainty and fear, and then you just go on in a calm way. That's the only way to deal with these things. Does anybody think there's a better way? I can't think of anything else. Does it make sense? Can you prove all these things? That's the problem with science. They always want you to prove things. But these things do work. You don't have to prove everything. As I said, there's an old saying, take a deep breath, it will calm you down. This comes from something. This is maybe an old wives' tale, but this really comes from somewhere, and it makes sense. Now, today we're very fortunate to have a distinguished guest among us, our friend Adele. She's actually a professional in this area. I wouldn't say an amateur at this, but I've learned to adapt this to part of my life. Adele also has classes in town if you'd like to learn some basic techniques. Would you like to speak for a moment, Adele?
Oh, okay.
And she's going to say a few words of wisdom. I hope I didn't make any mistakes.
Oh, no.
You're the maestro here.
Oh, no.
Oh, you can come up here and speak to our audience, our friends, our patients. We're here to spread the word of love. Isn't that what it's really all about? You two make a wonderful couple. Mother-in-law. This is Adele. As I said, she has a class, and she's going to speak for a few moments, and I'm all done with my notes here. And
I didn't bring my notes.
well, you're so knowledgeable. Speak from your heart.
Okay.
And you have a little candle to relax you.
Thank you, Dr.
Okay, we're going to have ice cream now.
Oh, okay. So I'm Adele Harris from Secaucus Body and Brain Yoga Center in Secaucus. It's in my house. And I also do meditation classes wherever you can find a space. So you can come to my house, or we can find a space to teach you how to start the process of learning meditation. I started this meditation, like it was an excellent lecture on, he covered all the points, but it's the racing mind, you know. It's like, I I thought when I'd go to sleep, that's when I relaxed, right? You go to sleep, you get a glass of wine, you go to sleep, and you relax, right? But no, my dentist told me I grind my teeth at night. So everything that's a subconscious is like, it's in my subconscious, you know, the stress even. And you know, like watching television, like you said, you know, even the commercials, you know, explosions and, you know, and the coming attractions of all this action movies, they got inside my consciousness and subconscious, and I was grinding my teeth on top of the other things that I was worried about. So I started meditation, and I realized I can, and that is a process of looking into calming the mind. Because it's racing all the time, and we have to give the mind the job, and that's what the breathing happens. When the breathing, deep breathing, you're calming the mind and giving the mind a
You
job.
want to lead
when
the
you're...
class in a little quiet meditation? We'll
Oh,
turn
you
the
want me to
lights
lead
down.
class? Oh,
We're going to be
okay.
serving ice cream. Does everyone like ice cream?
Okay.
Where's my assistant, Nelson?
You
Okay.
got Hershey syrup?
Let's do a little meditation for a couple of minutes.
Look at
Take me
this.
seriously in my ice cream outfit.
Are you the good humor man?
Yes. Remember when the ice cream man came around and you distracted him? Your friends went in the back and grabbed all the ice cream out and ran away? Wasn't that fun? No? You didn't do that? Or how about when he came, he was in the back, you ran in the front side and ringing the bells?
You must have been big. My friend said her mother said, whenever you hear the bell ringing on the ice cream truck, that means there's no more ice cream.
That's terrible. Diane?
Oh, that means coming in.
Diane, can you come out? This is Diane, she's assisting us. Come out, sweetheart.
It means nothing.
This is my personal assistant, my first wife, Diane. They're laughing, they're happy. You must have been successful today. And there's no charge for today's lesson. I want you to know.
Plus that last weight, right?
But do we have to,
Never leave the mother of your children. That's how you get into trouble.
but do we have to tip you? That ice cream? I just want to know.
Does she
So-
eat your food, Doc?
She what?
Does she eat what you
They're
cook?
trying to learn. My kids listen too now. It's taking a
Really?
while.
Good luck with that.
Besides, I pay the bill, so they have to listen. The other day, I found soda in my pantry. So we had her family over. They drink soda, and they eat donuts and cupcakes and potato chips and
What?
chocolate, all these
How
things.
dare they?
It was there from them. I don't eat these things.
What about dark chocolate?
That's what we're serving tonight, dark chocolate and ice cream. So Adele, we don't want to, Adele is going to teach us to do our relaxation, a little stretching first,
That's what I
a little deep breathing, and then here's Nelson, the ice cream man. Nelson was my medical student, and now he's a major researcher at William Patterson College. He's published a paper. His picture's going to be in the newspaper next week. And Nelson's father is our state representative now. So
Congratulations.
I didn't know that when I hired him, but it seemed to be a very good decision.
I don't know.
When he first came here, he dropped his resume off, and I'm looking at it, I said, oh, who is this guy? And Laura, my nurse, looked at it and said, well, he seemed like a nice kid, he's from the town, give him a chance. And he came here in this suit that was like too tight for him, and he was very nervous. And I said, Laura, go talk to him, see if you can get anything out of him. He said, well, he seems okay. And that's how he started working here. And now he's a major researcher. He's going to go on to finish college and then do medical school and get an MD, PhD.
What does that mean in English? What does that mean in English?
A PhD is a doctorate in philosophy, so you get that when you do like a thesis route.
He
Doctorate.
does research in genetics, so he's published a paper, he's big stuff, he's known in his
I
field
study
now.
gene expression.
How this happened, I don't know, but there was something there, a
Very good.
kernel of creativity, of
Yes.
art, and it has blossomed into this beautiful plant.
I wouldn't have
And
published a
we'll be
paper without him.
lifetime friends.
There you go.
And now we're going to serve ice cream. You can have vanilla
He makes you
or
dress up like
chocolate.
this.
Yeah, I still have to do this.
You have to do this, really. I mean,
Diane, bring us
there's
the
a price of things.
Cat out of the bag. Now everybody wants ice cream. Am I gonna start now? Okay, so.
Maria, sit down, we're meditating.
Okay, so let's just move our shoulders a little bit, up and down, breathe in, and breathe out. Right, breathe in, and out. Always breathe out, breathe in. And then reverse the other way, up and down the shoulders. Breathe in, and breathe out. Always breathe out, releasing the tension. And one more. Okay, and now let's rotate our head 3 times, slowly, relax, open the mouth when you go in the back. Nice and easy, breathe out when you come to the front, and then breathe in, and breathe out. Whew. Breathe out the toxins, breathe in the good air, and breathe out the toxins inside. Then the other way 3 times, breathe in, and out. Breathe in, and breathe out. Okay, one more in, and out. Okay, now just turn your head to the left and to the right, nice and slow, one side, and the other side, one side, the other side, and then one more, and the other side. Okay, and just shake your hands like this. Relax, release, release, release all the tension through your hands. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, and stop. Put your hands on your belly button, right on your stomach. Now we're going to breathe with our belly button. Try to, not with your shoulders up and down, but with your abdomen, okay? So just push everything out like a balloon. And then pull everything into your spine. That's all you have to do. Push out everything like a balloon, and then pull in everything to the spine. Now the trick is, you have to count, because you got to give your mind a job. So, we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Hold your breath, and then exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Push your belly in. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Push out everything in the belly. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pull in. Exhale. Like breathe in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Be careful, don't move your shoulders. And one more. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Now, if practice this kind of breathing before you go to sleep, or, like he said, in a quiet spot. And it relaxes your brain. But counting is important, because your brain needs to have a job. Okay, now just keep your eyes closed and think of something in your past that made you very happy, either a birthday party or on the beach or being with someone you by the fireplace, or being on a boat. Just remember that occurrence, that event. Try to think of all the details. What were you wearing? What was the weather? What was the colors that you had? around you? Was it outside? Was it inside a room? Who was there? Try to remember everything about that event that made you so happy. Just take a minute. Still breathing back deeply. Try to remember. A couple of minutes. Makes a smile on your face. If your mind wanders, start breathe. Keep your mind on the breathing. Counting. You start thinking of something else, count your breathing. Yes, now we're finishing, then breathe in 1 time, 2, 3 times. Breathe in and exhale. Whew. Number 2, breathe in, exhale. Whew. And 1 more, breathe in, bend forward a little bit and exhale through your teeth. Go shh. Okay. Open your eyes and rub your hands together and clap 10 times. Clapping together. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Okay, now the best part, you get ice cream. Thank you, Adele.
I'll leave my business cards here.
As I said, it takes practice. You have to do it every day. So try it for a few minutes at home. But try make it part of your life and make it something you're comfortable with. So these are the books we do recommend reading. This one is Why Not to Eat Weak. These are all written by doctors. That's what's interesting. That's Dr. Davis. He was a cardiologist. This is Dr. Wall. She's the one that had the multiple sclerosis and basically solved her problem with diet alone. Hard to believe, but it happened. This is the last one I started reading called The Plant Paradox, written by a heart surgeon, Dr. Gundry. He's a heart surgeon, and what he noticed every time he operated on a patient for heart disease, they also had severe arthritis in their spine. So if somebody's in their 30s, they shouldn't have arthritis. And what he eventually learned was whatever was causing the heart disease was setting off other problems in the body. He was overweight, 70 pounds, he exercised, he drank diet soda, he didn't know what it was till he started researching it. This is the interesting part. After it was all over, he said, why should I operate on people with heart disease if I could actually prevent the whole problem with diet? So he learned that a lot of the foods that we normally think are healthy actually make you sick. So, oh, there's strawberry, Estelle. Oh, you got it? Okay. He learned a lot of the foods that we eat make us sick. One of the things specifically is like foods that are seeds, beans, tomatoes, eggplants, things that you normally thought were healthy actually can make you sick. So you have to, it's good to read through the book. If you're really interested, come make an appointment. I'll give you like a synopsis of the whole thing. And I actually started on it and made a dramatic difference. So I think there's a lot to it, and there's research behind it, but you know, what do you need research for? The guy lost 70 pounds, he feels great. He actually opened 2 clinics for this. So, you know, you could read these books and believe about 80% of what they say. You have to figure out what works for you. Again, something has to fit into your life. Don't do radical things that are not you, things that you're not comfortable with. These chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla. When I was growing up, my mother would buy the ice cream. Like, if it was on sale, she'd get the Breyers. So they had the chocolate, the vanilla, and the strawberry. I love strawberry. I'd go there and I'd eat that. My brother loved vanilla. He would eat that down. And my mother loved the chocolate. So within about 2 days, there was no ice cream left. You could see who had the ice cream. You'd open it up, they dug out all the vanilla, dug out all the strawberry. So we knew who ate what. The other two books that are very interesting, I'll just talk while you're eating, is Real Food, Fake Food. And this is a really interesting book about a guy who actually researched where the food comes from, what's in it, and like one thing he talked about seafood, he said, the worst seafood to eat is shrimp. Because it comes from far away, it's raised in farm-raised conditions. He talked about the olive oil. Did anybody get the olive oil this year, the olive branch olive oil? He talked about that. That's a good quality olive oil, better than a lot of the European brands. So I think this is a good book to read. It starts with the Parmesan cheese. What we call Parmesan cheese in our country is probably not. Real Parmesan cheese comes from Italy. It tastes dramatically different. You get it in a block. You have to actually grate it yourself, and it tastes different. It's actually much better for you. This is about sugar, a guy about the whole sugar industry. He said the sugar industry is just as bad as the tobacco industry. They want to get you hooked on things, and he said it's incredibly addictive. It affected him. So if something affects the person writing the book, you know they can really understand it, you can believe what they say. It's like if you smoke and you're a doctor, you tell somebody not to smoke, the patient will say, well, you don't know what it's like to smoke. No, I don't. I can't smoke, I don't get anything out of it, but somebody who does smoke, it becomes addictive, it affects them, they like it. So you actually have to be sick first, get yourself well, then you'll understand the process, and then you can teach others. In medicine, we used to say when you were in your residency, watch one, do one, and teach one. So you watch somebody do it once, do one yourself, and then teach it to somebody else. And that's actually what the word doctor means. It means teacher. The last book, this is kind of interesting. This is a guy, he's from Australia. And it's like for people, men mostly in their 50s, to start reading, 40s and 50s. He talks about everything. Talks about meditation, about exercise, about eating right. And as I say, 80% of it, what they say is okay. You have to read through it and filter. It's like anything, when you listen to the news, you have to read between the lines, what's real and what isn't real. Because they're telling you things that aren't always factual. So, does anybody have a question?
Are these books available in the
Can I have more ice cream? That should be the question. Can I have another, sir? You're not having ice cream? Anne Marie, would you like ice cream?
No, thanks.
Oh, she's so sweet. She's the nicest mom in Secaucus. So that's where we are. I hope this was informative. It'll help you. I hope you make it part of your life, and you kind of get into this after a while. And I think it's necessary. Yes, the young lady in the second row.
One of the biggest things I find with meditation is that you slow everything down, you breathe, you do everything, but your mind wanders back to where you started, and then you go back to where you should be, and you start, but your mind. For me, anyway, I don't know about anybody else.
I believe you.
Everybody. You know, it just goes back.
What's your point?
My point is, how do you stop that?
That's the whole point. You're not supposed to stop it. You let it just keep revolving, and then you just don't interact that, and you go back to the calm place. It's like getting lost. You go back to the place you know. You know why the mind thinks about all these things? There's a reason for that. There's a reason for everything. That's actually how the mind solves problems. You think about all different possibilities of doing things. So that's a normal process. That's supposed to happen. You just have to get under the circumstances that you're not interacting with those thoughts. And focus on what's important.
I think about what I did today, what I should have done, what I could have done. Did I do that right? Did I do that right? And what am I going to do tomorrow?
That's actually destructive thinking because you're
Yes.
wasting your time.
Totally.
That's why I say by just sitting there and letting the thoughts go, it's like watching the clouds move. You know, you're not interacting with the clouds. You just kind of watch them, and you're here and they're there, and you just you don't let it control you. That's really what it's all about, getting
It's a lot of
control
work,
of the
though.
situation.
It takes a lot of work.
That's why I said this. I'm giving you a new job. The alternative is to let these things control you, and it's going to make you sick. And that's one of the causes of dementia is burning your
And not
brain
being
out
able
worrying
to
about
sleep.
things. What's that?
And not being able to
That's a
sleep.
critical factor. I have about 15 different things that you do to really prevent dementia. You know why these pills don't work for dementia? Because they only solve one of the problems of dementia. There could be 30 or 40 different causes. It's like a roof that's leaking. You plug one hole, the rest of them are still leaking. It's a whole process. It's exercise, it's food, it's this microbiome, the bacteria that are in your body. Are you on medications? Did you have stress in your life? all these things are going to affect you. You have to come to terms with these things and accept them. You can't change the world, as I said. And you have to just let it go, and you have to make yourself calm, because in the end, this is very cruel and selfish, but you have to take care of yourself. Where are we going with all this stuff? You have to take care of yourself. You can't help anybody if you can't save yourself first. Save yourself and teach this to others, and people around you have to understand there's limitations to what you can do. Certainly as you get older, you can't do what you did when you were 18. You have limitations. You have to accept that, and you understand that this is what I can do and what I can't do. And as I always say, save 10% for yourself. Live 20% longer, and then you can help others. I don't know. I don't know. Does that make sense? Is there anything else to do? Does anybody else have a solution to all this? We're in New Jersey. It's not supposed to be like this. None of us ever knew it was going to be like this. We're from a different generation. It's like this thing, everything changed around us, and it changed very rapidly. And, you know, we still live in this normal world that we grew up in. But it's not normal anymore. I tell my kids, it's like I'm from a different world now. This isn't my world.
Good.
How many hours of sleep?
Well, that's interesting. You know, like I used to say, oh, I get 7 hours sleep. I just get up in the morning, start forcing myself to get up, have some coffee or tea, get up, start doing things. You're not ready to get up. You need 8 hours. Let's say you didn't have to do anything. You sleep more and your brain works better. That's what I learned. I told when I was a little kid, you know when you're growing, you get tired because your body's developing. So I would take a nap. We were down at the beach. I'd take a nap around 11 o'clock. The most peaceful thing I ever remember is going up to the attic part of our house. It's quiet. Everybody's out of the house. They're at the beach. They're shopping, doing it. Just going to sleep up in this little room. And there was nobody there. There was no noise.
In Europe is the best thing, that you have to sleep in the afternoon.
Well, that's what you do. Also, you eat in the afternoon. You don't eat late at night. And the food there is less polluted. They have a respect for the food. There's less pesticides, toxicity. It's an artwork, the food. So, oh my God. Did we go over? This is Chris, my cameraman, my friend. He helps film these things, and hopefully we'll send the message out. It's like a kind message, a good message, and you get ice cream too.
That's a good message.
And bananas.
Well, you know, that's what I have at home. I have a little snack in it. If I'm going to have ice cream, something sweet, a little banana, put a little bit of brown sugar and cinnamon on it. It's all natural. It's a little bit of sugar. It's not going to kill you. You have to be reasonable. How much longer you got? That's what I figure. I think I got 20 years. I'm going to do what I want.
You know what my motto is? When your number's up, your number's up.
I don't believe that. I believe in preventative medicine. Yes,
Yes,
Mr.
talk about
Kavanaugh.
in the library here in Secaucus,
Yes.
there used to be 3 copies of a simple book called Get Fit in Bed. Get Fit in Bed, which have exercises you can do in bed. You're very safe. They're nice exercises. You can do them in any time, day or night.
These are romantic exercises?
We're all thinking the
Book
same
would be a bestseller.
I like it.
Can you do this by yourself? This is a book. Do you know who the author was?
Yes, I do.
Who was the author?
I was. Yes.
He was the author. You have any copies? We can sell them in the
They're in the library.
Very simple things you can do while you're laying in bed, in other words.
Yes.
You should make use of all the time in your life. I figure, you know, you have 24 hours in a day, you're going to sleep for 8, you got to work, so how much time do you really have for yourself? It's very unfair. They're taking using up all our time. When do we have time to, you know, go race our Ferraris, or go for a swim, or do whatever we want
Just
to
go
do?
into the grocery store or something like that. By the time you get there, then the crowd of people, you gotta
It's all
push
very
your way
traumatic,
through.
isn't it?
Yeah,
Going to those
oh,
big,
it's not
gigantic stores, they're running into you with their
Right,
carts,
exactly.
gigantic bags of potato chips, a jar of mayonnaise this big. What is going on? Does anybody ask what's wrong here? Maybe I can
They
help.
say bigger is better.
I don't
I'll
think
drink
so.
to that.
I don't,
So,
Where are we going?
you know, everybody here should try and spread the message to another. And so if they want, they can come join us next time, and we'll have another class. It's almost like a message, a good message to spread.
Very good said.
If it works.
Very good.
I think they should start at the top, right? And it should go all the way down. And remember, the word doctor means teacher. That's my role. But I also learn from my patients. I sit and listen to everybody. I sit and listen to their problems. I sit and listen to what they think is wrong with them. You know, when you go to the doctor, you got this problem that you have. He's listening to you for 3 minutes. He's got preconceived ideas. He's got to find out some treatment to get you in and out of the office quickly. then really they don't know anything about you, but you live with the problem. You have to explain to them, this is what I think it is. That's very important to have. Does anybody here have a relationship with their doctor like that they could speak with him, that their doctor would listen to them, respect their opinion? Anybody have that relationship with their doctor? Well, that's good. You're very fortunate. I applaud you all. You made excellent decisions in finding a good doctor. Oh, good. More ice cream?
What time is class next week?
This is a select audience. I'm glad you all came. You know, you have to have a dream in life. This is what I tell my kids. Figure out exactly what you want to do. And it's going to take a long time to get there because it's really worthwhile and it's a lot of work. 90% of the people aren't going to do it. They're going to drop out along the way. So figure out what you want to do. Have a dream, plan, and then persevere. That's what I did. I take your plan in life. So for me, this is exactly what I always wanted to do. And the next step of my career is to be on TV. And we are on TV.
When I said that to my one grandson, he said, Grandma, I'm young yet. How do I know what I want to be when I grow up? They don't teach him that.
I read something that Dr.
Yeah.
Oz said. When he was a young kid, his father really focused on things. I think he was a doctor. Anyway, they were standing at an ice cream stand, and the father says to this other kid, Dr. Oz's father, said, what would you like to do? The kid was 13. He said, oh, I have no idea. And Dr. Oz, and the father tells Dr. Oz's junior, see, you have to know what you're doing and where you're going. He's a nice boy, but he doesn't have any direction. You know, with children, you have to give them direction, but you can't force them into doing things they don't want to do. If you're not good at math, don't become an engineer. That happened to somebody. You know, the father forced a kid to become an engineer. He didn't want. He became a doctor. Not me. We had no doctors in our family. My uncle was a doctor. That'll be in the newspaper in a couple of weeks. My uncle Chris.
Did you want to be a doctor when you were younger?
Well, influence was my uncle, Uncle Chris. He delivered us. We were all from North Bergen originally. We lived in this area. He delivered us. We were children. He delivered us in Hackensack. He was a family practitioner. So he took care of everybody in the family. They didn't charge in those days. People had no money. His office wasn't.
Black bag.
His office was in Paramus. Paramus, the main street was a dirt road. He was the first doctor, and he grew up with the town. People loved him and respected him. His children became doctors. So yeah, he
So you
influenced
saw
all of
that,
us.
and that's what motivated you?
Well, one of the things, sure. When my brother was a dentist, I had to outdo him. And I did.
Okay.
Competition.
All right. It drives you. Well, it's like stress. There's good and bad stress. But you have to have some.
Oh, we all.
Animals have stress. You know, the squirrel in the forest got to go get all the acorns and bury them, you know.
Yeah, but then he never remembers where the hell he put them.
Our squirrels do.
Would you educate them?
Maybe, eh? So, does anybody have any other questions? Do you have like a basis where to start? And I just want you to think about these things. You have to research these things, look at it yourself. I gave you a little card so you could take it home just as a friendly reminder. Be comfortable when you do this. You could sit on a floor, sit in a chair. You don't have to be twisted up and folded up like a pretzel. That's very uncomfortable. You don't have to say Om. It's not really meditation. And that's really what prayer is. If you think about it, you're sitting there and you're just thinking about peaceful things. Even if you don't believe in it, religion is good. It calms you down. It gives you hope. You're sick and you believe in something. Well, somebody loves you.
That's right.
The worst disease is loneliness.
Yes.
Yes, Mrs. Biswa.
I have a question. You said to do some stress relieving exercises.
Stretching, right?
Yeah. How much time should we spend in the morning after getting up?
It depends what time you have to get to work.
Well, I don't think
I think you
anybody's
should do a
working.
mile in the morning and then a mile at night of walking. I think you should do stretching, some sit-ups, some push-ups. That's what I do, light weights. And, you know, you work something out that works. You
I
gotta
lift
walk.
weights and
How
stuff.
far did the average person walk 500 years ago? There were people living here 500 years ago. How far did they
Everybody
walk
walked.
every
All
day?
day.
5
All
to
day.
10 miles a day. You have to get water, you have to get food, you have to visit people in the next village.
We
This was
all
actually
walked.
a great place
We
to
walked
live,
to
see
school,
folks.
we
You had the
walked
Hackensack, you had the Hudson, you had water here, it was a high place up on County Avenue, you could watch people coming in and out. And in the wintertime, they went down the shore, they had family there, these were the Delaware Indians, the
But you
Lenni
know what
Lenape
happens?
Indians.
Everybody becomes, not everybody, some people become lazy and they put it off. Oh, I'll do that tomorrow.
There was no laziness in those
No, they
cultures,
had
because
to
let's
do
say
it
you
to
were a
survive,
lazy member of the tribe, well, then you didn't eat, there was no use for you. I'm sure there were some people who were more, exerted more energy than others, but You know, there's all these variations in society, but you couldn't exist if you didn't work. I mean, if you were a bad caveman, they kicked you out.
Go your wrong way.
That's how it's supposed to be. So I say you have to fix yourself. And it's interesting, what we're talking about, people live collectively as groups. It was a big family unit. You couldn't exist by yourself. Even wolves work collectively as a group, so there's protection in the importance of the family, which is being affected by our culture. I think a lot of it's financial. If everybody had a job, it was easy life, you know, you wouldn't have all this disruption.
And
but it's
everybody
not.
moves away. But years
Yes.
ago, you stayed
Stayed
close to
together,
people. You know,
That's what my
families.
father did. I was just talking to my aunt about that, and I said, when we were growing up, my father told us we should all live each other, because you're gonna have problems, you need each other's help. So we all lived nearby. Her family's all different directions. She said, well, that was good advice. And she cried. One daughter passed away, the other two she doesn't see a lot, so it's just painful things happen in people's lives. So that's about it. I hope this was helpful to you.
Thank you so much.
Next lesson is how to improve your sex life.
We started a little.
And Ted's gonna come in with his girlfriend and show us how.
I love it.
Bravo, bravo! As we say in Italian, buonasera. Does this help you at all? This is Corey Robinson, my friend from Brooklyn. When I said we used to steal the ice cream cones, you know, he said we used to steal the ice cream truck. Yay! Good luck with it, maybe you can straighten him out.
I tried.
Take the show on the road. Everybody take Adele's card and go for a session. I'm gonna go myself. Hey Ray, how we doing? Everything good? Did that help?
Thank you for coming.
And now what do we do with these cards?
For you.
Oh, these are for you?
No, they're for you.
Thank you, Lemonade. Thank you all.
Bye. Thank you for coming. Thank you for having us.
I need the cards that was just giving you.
You got everything?
Ice cream? I can't believe they said Mary. You're very
Done? Now we can.
Anita.
I don't make it belong to someone.
Okay.
Step